I studied history, got a bachelor in history, and focused on antiquities, so ancient Greece and Rome. Well, to justify the expense of university for history, I said that that part of history inspired the wine and spice trade.
Yeah.
In an elective, I did do a botany class,
Okay.
and that was kind of, in a weird way, that was kind of the nexus to getting into wine.
Yeah.
I came from an Italian-American family where there was always wine on the table and an interest in it. I grew up in the East Bay, so not far from wine country.
Okay.
After school, came back up to the Bay Area and wanted to give it a shot in the wine industry, so I got an internship at Cakebread Cellars. The older generation, the original immigrants, so it would have been my grandparents. They had we had family in Petaluma, and they had a one tank down in the cellar, and they would get 1 ton a year for $200 already crushed, and they would get it trucked in and put it into the tank, fermented, and then they would have their own home wine from that. I applied for 2 positions, and that was the one where I got hired for the internship.
Both in Napa, or?
They were both in Napa. The other one was Robert Sinsky.
Okay.
I got the Cakebread position. Obviously, I didn't have any background in wine.
Yeah.
I did not want to be a suit and tie that sat at a desk. I wanted to be, not that you can't be passionate about your work, but I'm a physical person. I wanted to be doing a physical job and being really excited about it. And as soon as I did that internship, I just fell in love with winemaking. And Cakebread was actually an excellent place to start because the cellar there is run impeccably. So it was a really good place to start.
Yeah.
As soon as I did that, I started going back to night classes at the JC, focusing on some chemistry and other wine courses. I spent off and on a couple of years in Australia. I did an internship at Derenberg Cellars in McLarenville, South Australia, and then went back, got into the University of Adelaide to do a semester of wine chemistry. I wanted to have a really strong background from soup to nuts in winemaking, so I spent a year working in a vineyard. It was a 100-acre property, driving tractors, running crews, doing sprays, pruning. And during that time, I also focused on a lot of VIT seminars and things like that. I had the intention of going to Italy to work in Chianti, and that fell through.
Okay.
I picked up a vintage at Gundlach Bundschu in Sonoma. Then I went back to Australia, and then I came back for a full-time position at Gundlach Bundschu, and stayed there for 5 or 6 years. I ended up working my way up the ladder to associate winemaker at Gundlach Bundschu, and then I was head winemaker for their sister brand, Bartholomew Park. In terms of real professional development, I think my time at Duckhorn, doing the Paraduxx brand, was pretty important. It was a key time in that brand's history where we launched Decoy, and so to be at an ultra premium company or wine producer to then launch that Decoy brand and see that kind of exponential growth was actually really good for me. I think it's multifaceted. I've got my own personal reasons, which is family and the flexibility that this offers. When I'm not running an operation or managing other people, I really can just focus on making the wine, and that's been huge because it takes so much time to manage people, to manage budgets, to manage an operation. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. My wife is also a career full-time winemaker, so for us that harvest period can be pretty challenging.
Yeah.
So to have the flexibility of working out of the house and also just focusing on winemaking. I would say that I always put quality first. So regardless of what price point I'm making a wine at, my goal is always to over-deliver for the price point. So if I'm making a $20 bottle of wine, I want it to taste like a $35 or $40 bottle of wine, and so on and so forth. Oh, at Paraduxx, I think it was an interesting thing where because it was kind of an odd mix of varietals in the blend, sometimes it was hard to open people's minds to even trying it. When I got them to try it, I can't remember any time that somebody said, I don't like that wine. Like, people were surprised that Zinfandel-based wine with Bordeaux varietals actually can taste really good and can complement each other. I heard a winemaker early in my career say that it was important to him that when people taste his wine, they see it as a reflection of him and his personality. And I thought that was a really great statement and something that I aspire to too. I take my job seriously, but I also know that I'm not a brain surgeon. So we're supposed to have fun. We're supposed to have a good time in this industry. So hopefully when the Angels open a bottle of my wine, they kind of get a sense of that. Lake County is an up-and-coming region. Also, as Napa and Sonoma, really the markets have tightened. Lake County is a really great alternative to those two markets and still to produce a high-end Cabernet Sauvignon. Cab and Bordeaux varietals are really the focus in that region right now, and they do really well. Like I used a little bit of Cab Franc and Malbec in this Cab blend, and they were both really opulent, really bright, pretty wines. So I see a lot of potential there. It's a beautiful place if anybody ever gets up there. There aren't a lot of wineries at this point, but the vineyards are spectacular.